The CTO stood in front of the engineering team at 2 a.m. and said the words nobody wanted to hear. "If we don't fix this bug by morning, the company is dead. Investors pull out at 9 a.m. We lose everything." He looked around the room at 15 exhausted developers. "Whoever fixes this gets $50 million. I'm serious. Fix it and you're set for life." Everyone stared at their screens, typing frantically, trying anything. Everything. Nobody noticed the janitor in the corner emptying the trash. Nobody noticed him glance at the error message on the main monitor. Nobody noticed him pause. And nobody had any idea that the man pushing the cleaning cart used to be the senior developer who'd built the framework their entire company ran on. Or that he'd been fired 3 years ago for refusing to put his name on code he knew was flawed. Or that he could fix their bug in 30 seconds if anyone bothered to ask. His name was Marcus Wright, 55 years old, night shift janitor at Tech Core Solutions in San Jose, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 5 days a week, cleaned offices, emptied trash, vacuumed floors, restocked supplies. Nobody looked at him, nobody talked to him. Just the old guy in gray coveralls who made sure the place was clean. What they didn't know was that 25 years ago, Marcus had written some of the most important code in Silicon Valley. Employee number 12 at DataBridge, late 90s, dot-com boom. Everyone building internet infrastructure. DataBridge built a framework, a system that helped different software applications communicate, share data, work together seamlessly. Marcus spent 3 years building it, every detail perfect, every edge case handled, every performance bottleneck optimized. The company grew exponentially, went public in 2000, made millions. Marcus got stock options, became wealthy overnight, paper millionaire at 32. But he loved coding more than money. Kept working, kept improving the framework, kept making it better. He mentored younger developers, taught them architecture principles, how to think about scalability, performance, reliability, building systems that would last decades, systems other developers would build on, systems that would power thousands of applications. He was proud of that work. His wife, Karen, was proud, too. Computer science majors who'd met in college, fell in love over late-night debugging sessions, got married right after graduation. She went into project management. He went into engineering. Good life, good marriage, good future. Then 2008 hit, financial crisis, stock market collapsed. DataBridge's valuation plummeted, 90% loss in 6 months. The board panicked, brought in new management, cost-cutting specialists. They looked at payroll, saw Marcus's salary, $200,000 a year, plus benefits, plus stock options, saw his age, 52, did the math, could hire 2 junior developers fresh out of Stanford for what they paid Marcus. Younger, faster, cheaper. The new CTO called Marcus in, company restructuring, making difficult decisions, eliminating redundancies. Marcus's position eliminated, effective immediately, 25 years. Gone. He tried finding other jobs. Sent out resumes, got rejections. Nobody wanted a developer in his 50s. Too old. Technology had changed. They wanted kids fresh out of Stanford. Never mind that Marcus could learn anything, that he had decades of experience, that he understood fundamentals better than any 25-year-old. The age discrimination was quiet, but absolute. After 6 months, his savings were running low. Karen had died 2 years earlier. Cancer. Medical bills wiped out most of their money. He had a mortgage. Bills. He needed income. Any income. Applied to a janitorial company. They hired him. Didn't care that he was 52. Didn't care about his computer science degree. Just asked if he could clean. He could. Started the next week. 7 years later, still doing it. Still cleaning offices. Still invisible. Worked at 4 different tech companies. Short contracts. 3 months here. 6 months there. Then a year ago, started at Tech Core Solutions. Startup. 5 years old. building project management software for enterprise clients, growing fast, raised $100 million in venture funding, 300 employees, big offices in San Jose, and they were using a modified version of the framework Marcus had built 25 years ago. He recognized it the first night, saw the code on a developer's screen, saw the architecture, knew it instantly. They'd taken DataBridge's open-source framework, modified it, built their product on top. That was fine. That's what open source was for. But as Marcus cleaned over the following months, he saw something that worried him. They'd modified the core framework incorrectly, changed something fundamental. He saw it in code reviews left on screens, architecture diagrams pinned to walls, Slack messages left open. They'd introduced a race condition, a timing error. Wouldn't show up in normal testing. But under heavy load, with multiple processes accessing the same data simultaneously, the system would lock up, crash, lose data. Marcus thought about saying something. But who would listen to the janitor? They'd think he was crazy. How would a janitor know anything about software architecture? So he stayed silent, cleaned their offices, listened to them talk about how great their system was, how stable, how ready for enterprise deployment. And he knew they were wrong. 6 months ago, TechCore landed their biggest client, Global Bank, one of the largest banks in America, contract to move all their project management to TechCore's platform. 50,000 users, millions of transactions. Implementation starting January. Go live March. The company celebrated. Huge deal. Validated their technology. Proved they were ready for enterprise. Stock options would be worth a fortune when they IPO'd. Marcus cleaned the office after the celebration, picked up champagne bottles, wiped down tables, worried, because he knew their system wasn't ready, knew the race condition would surface under that load, knew it would crash. But nobody asked the janitor. Nobody cared what he thought. The implementation started in January. Engineering team worked around the clock, migrating data, training users, testing everything. Small tests worked, medium tests worked, but they hadn't done full-scale testing, hadn't simulated 50,000 concurrent users, hadn't pushed the system to its limits. Marcus watched them work, celebrate each milestone, ignore warning signs, small glitches, occasional slowdowns. They dismissed these as network issues. Database optimization needs. Nothing fundamental, nothing to worry about. The go-live date was set, March 15th. Big press release scheduled. Global Bank's CEO would be there. TechCore's investors would be there. The moment that would prove TechCore was ready for the big leagues, ready to compete with Salesforce and Microsoft. March 14th at 11 p.m., they flipped the switch. Moved all 50,000 Global Bank employees onto the platform. Everything worked. For 20 minutes. Then the system started slowing down. Users reported lag, screens freezing, actions taking minutes instead of seconds. The engineering team monitored from their office, saw the performance degradation, started troubleshooting, optimized database queries, added more servers, restarted services. Nothing worked. By midnight, the system was barely functional. By 1 a.m., crashed completely. 50,000 users locked out, couldn't access any project data. Global Bank's operations grinding to a halt. Their CEO calling, furious, threatening lawsuits, threatening to pull the contract. TechCore's CEO called an emergency meeting. Every engineer in the office. 2 a.m. Everyone exhausted, panicking. The CTO, 32-year-old James Porter, stood at the front. He'd been with the company 3 years. Brilliant coder. Stanford grad, arrogant, confident, until tonight. Now he looked terrified. We have 7 hours until the market opens. Our investors are meeting with us at 9 a.m. to discuss Series C funding. If they find out about this crash, they pull out. Without that funding, we're done. Payroll runs out in 6 weeks. He pulled up the error logs on the main monitor. This is the error. Deadlock condition. Multiple processes trying to access the same data simultaneously. System locks up, crashes. We need to fix this. Now. 15 developers stared at their screens, started debugging, checking code, looking for the source. Marcus was in the corner, emptying trash cans, trying to be invisible, but he glanced at the monitor, saw the error message, recognized it immediately, exactly what he'd predicted. The race condition, the flaw in how they'd modified the framework. He knew exactly what was causing it, knew exactly how to fix it. 2 lines of code, add a mutex lock. Ensure only one process could access that data section at a time. 30 seconds of work, but he was the janitor. Nobody would listen. James paced the room, watched his team work, getting more agitated. Come on, people. We need this fixed. Whoever solves this gets a bonus, a big one. One developer looked up. How big? James didn't hesitate. $50 million. I'm serious. Fix this bug and you get $50 million. I'll liquidate stock options. I'll make it happen. Just fix it. The room went silent. Then everyone started working twice as hard, typing frantically, throwing ideas around, trying everything. Nothing worked. 3 a.m. came, 4 a.m., 5 a.m. The bug remained. Systems still crashed. Global banks still locked out. Marcus finished emptying trash, pushed his cart toward the door, glanced one more time at the screen, saw them going down the wrong path, fixing the wrong thing. They didn't understand the root cause, didn't see what he saw. He stopped at the door, stood there, wrestling with himself. He could walk out, let them fail. They'd fired people like him, replaced experienced developers with cheap kids. This was their problem, not his. But 50,000 global bank employees couldn't do their jobs right now. Projects stalled. Work stopped. That wasn't the developer's fault. That was just bad code. And Marcus couldn't walk away from bad code, even if nobody would listen. He turned around, walked back into the room, pushed his cart to the side, approached the CTO. Excuse me. James looked at him, irritated. What? I think I know what's wrong. James stared at him. What? With your code. I know what's causing the crash. James looked at the other developers. A few were smirking. One laughed. James turned back to Marcus. You're the janitor. Yes. And you think you know what's wrong with our code? Yes. Have you ever written code? Yes. 25 years of it. James scoffed. Right. And now you're a janitor. Because companies don't hire developers over 50, but I still know code. James looked at him like he was insane. Okay, janitor, enlighten us. What's wrong with our code? Marcus pointed at the screen. You're using the data bridge framework, modified version, but you changed the mutex implementation in the data layer, replaced synchronized blocks with a custom locking mechanism. You did that to improve performance under normal load. But you introduced a race condition. When multiple threads try to access the same data simultaneously, your locks don't prevent collision. They lock up, deadlock, system crashes. The room was silent. James stared at him. How do you know we're using data bridge? Because I wrote it. More silence. One developer laughed nervously. You wrote data bridge? The framework that half the internet runs on. Yes, I was employee 12 at Data Bridge. Wrote the core framework from scratch. That was 1998. James shook his head. That's impossible. Data Bridge's lead developer was... He trailed off, pulled out his phone, typed something, looked at the screen, looked back at Marcus. Marcus Wright. That's me. You're the Marcus Wright? Yes. The room erupted. Developers talking over each other, asking questions. James held up his hand. Wait, if you're really Marcus Wright, prove it. Tell me something about Data Bridge that only the original developer would know. Marcus didn't hesitate. The core mutex implementation uses a 2-phase commit protocol. First phase acquires locks, second phase executes. If any lock fails in phase 1, all locks release. But there's an undocumented edge case. If a thread holds a lock and crashes before releasing it, the system has a deadlock timeout. 30 seconds. After that, it force releases. That timeout is set in a config file that doesn't appear in the documentation. Only the original developer would know that because I never told anyone, didn't want people messing with it. James typed on his computer, pulled up data bridge source code, searched, found it, stared at the screen, looked at Marcus. Jesus Christ, you really are him. He turned to his team. He's really Marcus Wright. He built this framework. Everyone stared. Marcus shrugged. I told you. Now do you want me to fix your bug or not? James nodded. Yes, please. Show me what's wrong. Marcus walked to the main computer. James stepped aside. Marcus pulled up the code, navigated through it quickly, knew exactly where to look, found the section, pointed. Here, you replaced the synchronized block with this custom lock, but you didn't account for read-write contention. Multiple readers can access simultaneously, but if a writer comes in, it crashes. You need to use a read-write lock, separate locks for readers and writers. Readers can share. Writers get exclusive access. He typed, changed 2 lines of code, added the proper lock type, adjusted the implementation. Took him 90 seconds. Try it now. James looked skeptical. Compiled the code. Deployed to test environment. Ran the stress test. 50,000 simultaneous users. The system handled it. No lag, no crashes, no deadlocks. Perfect. James stared at the screen. That's it? That's the fix? That's it. 2 lines of code. Yes. You fixed in 90 seconds what 15 developers couldn't fix in 4 hours. Because I know the framework, built it from scratch, know every edge case. James ran the test again. Same result. Perfect performance. He looked at Marcus. Deploy this to production, now. One developer deployed the fix. They monitored the system. Global Bank's users started logging back in. Everything worked. Fast. Stable. No issues. James collapsed into a chair. You just saved this company. Marcus shrugged. You just needed someone who understood the framework. Why didn't you say something earlier? Because I'm the janitor. Who listens to the janitor? James looked at him, really looked at him. Why are you working as a janitor? You're Marcus Wright. You should be running an engineering team somewhere. Marcus's smile was bitter. I was fired in 2008. DataBridge was bought out. New management cut costs. I was too expensive, too old, tried getting other jobs, sent out hundreds of resumes. Nobody wanted a 50-something developer. Age discrimination is real. Just quiet. The room was silent. One of the younger developers looked uncomfortable. James stood up. I need to tell you something. I'm the one who modified that mutex implementation. Thought I was improving it. Didn't understand the original design. Didn't appreciate why you built it that way. I caused this crash. Marcus nodded. You're a good coder, but you didn't understand the fundamentals. Thought you could optimize without understanding trade-offs. That's what happens when you replace experience with speed. James looked at the floor. I'm sorry. You didn't know. But now you do. James looked up. The $50 million, I meant it. You fixed the bug. It's yours. Marcus laughed. You don't have $50 million. I have stock options. I'll liquidate them. Take a loan if I have to. I made a promise. I keep my promises. Marcus shook his head. I don't want your money. But I promised. I know, but I'm telling you I don't want it. James looked confused. Then what do you want? Marcus thought about it. I want a job, a real job, writing code, not cleaning floors. Pay me a fair salary. Let me work on architecture. Give me a team. That's what I want. James didn't hesitate. Done. You're hired, chief architect. You name your salary. You start Monday. Actually, you start now. We need to review the entire code base. Find any other issues. Marcus smiled. Okay, but I'm still finishing my shift tonight. I'm professional. James laughed. Fair enough. The rest of the night, Marcus worked with the engineering team, went through the codebase, found 3 other potential issues, fixed them all, explained why each fix was necessary, taught them how to think about the framework, how to work with it instead of against it. By 7 a.m., Global Bank's system was rock solid. By 8 a.m., investors arrived. James briefed them. Minor hiccup during deployment? Fixed. System performing beautifully. Perfect performance. Investors approved Series C funding. TechCore was saved. At 9 a.m., Marcus clocked out, hung up his coveralls, went to HR, was officially hired as chief architect. Salary 3 times what he'd been making. Stock options that could be worth millions. But more than that, he had his dignity back. He was a developer again. Global Bank signed more contracts. TechCore doubled in size. Within a year, James made Marcus CTO. He rebuilt engineering culture, recruited experienced developers in their 40s and 50s who'd been pushed out, and the company thrived. 2 years later, TechCore IPO'd at $45 a share. Marcus's options were worth $60 million. He didn't retire, kept building, because it wasn't about money. DataBridge, the company that fired him, went bankrupt. Marcus bought the IP rights and donated them to an open-source foundation, free. The way it should have been. 5 years after that night, Marcus passed the janitorial staff late one evening. One was an older man, maybe 60. Marcus stopped, asked his name. Robert, former accountant. Laid off. Too old, they said. Marcus handed him a card. Monday morning, 9 a.m. My office. Bring your resume. Monday came. Marcus hired him, director of finance, because he knew what it felt like to be invisible, to be written off, and he'd never let that happen on his watch. What would you have done? Walked out and let them fail? Or stepped forward even though you were just the janitor? Leave a comment. And if this story reminded you that experience matters, consider subscribing, because everyone deserves to be seen, to be valued, to be given a chance. And sometimes the person who can save you is the one you've been ignoring all along.